Hi, everyone. I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening as the Sanctuary of Hope presents Mental Health Mondays. My name is Sabrina Ware, and I'm the director of the Sanctuary of Hope. And as everyone knows and is fully aware, because it's been all over the internet, that this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And one of the things that we do want to achieve by having Mental Health Mondays is just presenting tools to the community, to the church, to our loved ones, to help them with their mental health needs. Now, I know this is a podcast that looks a little formal. However, we want everyone to just be relaxed, and we're just going to present to you tools that will help you. So I'm excited tonight as we kick off our series of Mental Health Mondays with Robin Hubbard. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Robin. First of all, she thought it not robbery to spend her birthday with us this evening. So thank you so much, Robin. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Robin's family, for sharing her with us this evening. I really appreciate it. So pretty much what I'm going to do is give you a little background about her before she presents to us tonight. Robin has her master's degree in education and counseling. Robin is a trust-based relational educator and family relationship coach. She serves children in foster care, their birth parents, and foster parents through her work with the Salvation Army Children's Services in Lehigh Valley. She has a passion to strengthen parents as they seek to meet the needs for their children through consistent, developmentally informed, nurturing care. Through the lens of trust-based relational intervention, which is TBRI, principles of connecting, empowering, and correcting, and I'm just going to Karen Purvis Institute of Child Development, parents can begin to lead their children on a path towards healing from histories of loss, grief, and trauma. That's so powerful. Wow. Robin is also passionate about sharing TBRI with professionals who serve vulnerable children. She has taught in the child welfare, juvenile, justice adoption professionals in Texas, Illinois, and Pennsylvania through her company, Secure Child LLC. And I'm just so excited to have her present to us tonight because she's going to be providing the first tool for our toolbox. And one of the things I would like to ask everyone to do on these next 4 Mondays is just develop a toolbox. All the information that you'll be getting from each speaker on those Mondays, just develop a folder, a toolbox, and always go back to reference, and we'll be available through the Sanctuary of Hope group if you have any additional questions. So right now, I'm going to decrease as Robin increases, and she will be presenting to us Calm and Connecting, Reducing Fear, Increasing Joy in Trying Times.
Thank you, Sabrina. Sabrina, you're such a bright light to introduce the Sanctuary of Hope, which is incredible. That's coming to the Lehigh Valley on May 30th?
Yes, May 30th,
so
absolutely.
It feels really special to be able to be the first one to speak on a Monday for mental health. And I want to thank all of you who are with us from wherever you're coming tonight. I wish I could look in your eyes. I wish I could welcome you personally and hear your stories, because I'm sure you have a lot. I know that we have all gone through so much in the last year, almost a year and a half, with dealing with so much confusion, anxiety, levels of fear we've never faced before, depression, loss of loved ones, just the loneliness of the isolation that we all experience. So it really meant a lot to me when I was asked by Sabrina to consider speaking with a group that would be interested. And I feel like we really are kindred spirits. We're all looking for a way to encourage others and be encouraged on our own journey with mental health struggles, our loved ones, our kids, our grown kids. And in the community, if you're serving as a therapist or a provider of any kind, your heart is wide open to try to find a way to meet the needs of these very precious people. So commend yourselves for showing up tonight, taking time out of your busy life, and starting on a Monday, which nobody really likes Mondays at all, but I'm liking it right now, and it is my birthday. And I actually can't think of a better way to celebrate life than talking about what I'm most passionate about, and that is helping families heal and have hope and relational repair. So I think you're in for a good experience. I want to just welcome you and know that we are so grateful that you're here. And I'm grateful to my family that's gathering, supposedly, and encouraging me by your presence. I appreciate it. I want to share that one of the reasons I actually know what I know and feel what I feel is because of vulnerable families I've served. I owe everything to the birth families that I've worked with as a visit coach through the Salvation Army Children's Services. I had no idea when I got into this work 8 years ago what it would mean to walk alongside people that had their children removed from their homes, and the terror that was for them, and the fear, the weight of anxiety and guilt that they carried, and shame, and the struggle of what they had to do in order to get their kids returned to them. And I have learned how brave, how persistent they are. Nobody on this planet has to look at their lives that hard and make changes that rapidly. And so I thank every single one of people I've worked with, mothers and fathers, single dads who've stepped up to say they want to be a better father and raise their kids, couples that have worked through a lot of grief to come together to bring their kids home. And that is the goal of almost every child in foster care, is to return to their families, to be reunited. And as a visit coach, I have this incredible privilege of coming alongside a family at their absolute worst time, showing them that I see them, I respect them, I hear their pain, I listen to their stories, I grieve with them, and then we get down to business of putting their children's needs front and center so they can provide a stable home, a safe home, and learn to get the tools you're talking about, Sabrina, for themselves, because many of them don't have those tools. They weren't handed to them, and they are under a lot of pressure. They have a lot of vulnerabilities, like struggle with stable housing, with mental health, with addiction issues. They have a lot on their shoulders, and it's hard to heal from that while you're caring for children. So to all of them, I want to say thank you, because that is why I am so passionate and so sure that actually if you bring the right level of care and a feeling of safety in the way we interact with one another, parents who are very fearful can have their fear reduced, their hope ignited, and their ability to change. It's incredible what can really happen. So hats off to all of you who have worked so hard. And my heart breaks for families who cannot have their children returned home for whatever reasons. They have my heart as well, because there isn't an adoption without a story of loss. So if anybody's listening that is an adoptive parent, I hope you treasure and value even the hard stuff of your children's history and their family, because that is an important piece of who they are, and it always will be. But thank you for your love and care for these kids. So thinking about that, I want to start in my own journey when I was a little girl. I think my first memory of observing someone in distress was in first grade. And it was out on the playground on a cold, it might have been late fall. We were all chilly, but we were running around playing, and I noticed this little girl from my class named Carolyn standing by the door, hovering by the door, cold and shivering, and her nose was running. And she looked so sad and so cold, and my heart really leapt out of my chest for her, and I can still see her to this day. But I never became friends with her. Fast forward to Valentine's Day, and we were all making our fancy boxes at our desks, and then the next day we're going to bring all our Valentines and put them in little mail carriers and drop them in each other's boxes. And while I was creating the Valentines with my mom, I did a few for my best friends, and she said, you need to do one for every child. And that was back in the day when no one cared about children's feelings. And they weren't requiring to do that. So I was not happy with this. Right. And I said, you mean even Carolyn? She said, yes. Who's Carolyn? But yes, everyone. Right. So I did it. The next day, I learned a lesson I have not forgotten. Obviously, I'm bringing it up tonight. Carolyn was in the front of the room at her desk. I was way in the back in an angle. She emptied out her box and one card fell out. It was for me. I was sitting with a stack of cards on my desk, and the look that Carolyn gave me still warms me and chills me at the same time, because she looked at me with her soulful eyes to say thank you. She felt seen. I felt seen by her. And I went in that moment from just seeing someone in pain to feeling seen by someone who's touched by my mother's kindness, not my own.
Yes, yes.
And I kind of felt like a little bit of an imposter. But even when I tell this story, I really thank Carolyn for being that little girl that took time to look at me and smile and observe that I had done something right. And I believe my mom helped me to start seeing kids outside of my own needs and my own world. And I still remember coming home from school. I was blessed to have a mom that was available to sit at the table and eat some snacks, and we could tell her stories. But I do remember if I ever told her about a problem that I had, if a little boy cracked my head with a big block of ice or pulled my long braids, if I told her that, she'd say, "Oh, that's hard. I'm sorry that happened to you." But then she'd turn and she'd get this faraway look and she'd say, "I wonder if that child gets enough love at home." And part of me was like, "Mom, I'm over here."
Right.
But here I am doing years and
yes.
years of social work to reach out to the most vulnerable people to say that very thing. I see you, I hear you, I want to know you, and I value you. I respect you for just being you. And I thank my mom for that. What a gift.
Yes, wonderful.
So we're here tonight because of that passion that was kind of born in me through my mother. And I love TBRI, and you explained it so well, trust-based relational intervention, because it is the most hopeful, cohesive set of principles for parents to follow. I don't care who you're raising, but it's designed for kids who are in foster care and who are adopted, because they need a special kind of parenting. They have suffered so much loss. Their history is often a mystery to us, but because of their suffering and the loss of their parents and their family and what was familiar to them, we have to parent differently. We can't proceed business as usual. We can't do traditional parenting. It has to be mindful, intensive, investment parenting for the long haul. And it has to be based on connecting deeply with the heart of the child. And it has to be about empowering their little bodies or their teenage bodies to understand how their brain works, how they can repair that by learning how to regulate themselves when they're distressed with the help of a parent, and also correcting principles that are not punishment. It's not about hurting them or their feelings to teach them a lesson. It is about walking alongside of them as a mentor, as someone who's going to guide them to a new way of living. They don't have to live by their wits anymore. They don't have to use manipulation or aggression to get their needs met. They are going to be able to speak with respectful words to a safe adult who's going to meet that need. And I've seen birth parents learn to do that. I've seen foster parents pour their whole heart and soul into meeting the needs of children. And it is incredible. What's even better when a foster parent and a birth parent come together and unite in this effort. Because you know who benefits? The children.
Yes.
They feel that they have two families on their team, and they don't have to wonder about loyalty, and they learn and grow. So my word to foster parents is, if you can find a bridge to show respect and love for that birth parent, get them pictures, ask them what's the kid's favorite food, ask them how they get their kids to sleep, show respect in that way, and they will feel honored and heard and seen, which is what we're talking about tonight. How can we see one another? How can we hear the heart of another person? And how can we have high value placed on that person? So I am living this out every day, which is a joyful place to be. I do carry a lot of stories, a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow. I've never realized such grief in any other work I've ever done before. And yet it's such a privilege because I have so much joy. I see lives being healed. I see children coming out from the darkness, so to speak, of of confusion of what's happening to my family, it's falling apart, and learning to reconnect with their parents, build trust, or to trust a new family that's going to care for them in an adequate way. And it's just beautiful, the restoration that can happen. I want to say that as a visit coach, my main job was to learn to be a partner to the parents at their worst, right? They had already suffered a lot of trauma. Things were not looking good for them, and then their children, the light of their lives. Truly, most parents who have their children removed, it's not because they've been hurtful to their children. They may have suffered some neglect because of the lack of resources. They might have introduced people into the home that were not safe. And that's another thing we're going to talk about tonight, is finding a safe person, being a safe person. Because these families just needed someone to come alongside. Can you imagine doing visits with a family, with your children, when you already feel shame that the kids are going to hate you because they got taken away from you, or thinking that everyone who's watching your visit is judging you and writing down notes? So visit coaching was designed to help that parent feel seen and respected and have a partner. And I'll tell you the difference that it made. Parents wouldn't miss visits because they weren't embarrassed. They weren't full of shame. They felt seen and cared about. And one of the coolest tools we use is a drawing for visit coaching. It's an umbrella. So you've got the umbrella and the handle and all these empty clouds above it. And we ask them to put in what are the stressors of their life. And they write in things like, I have to find mental health care. I have to get drug and alcohol counseling. I have to work out my relationship with so-and-so. And it's a heavy load. And they also worry, they put up there, is my child safe in foster care? We forget that they worry that their children might be hurt in foster care. So we ask them to put those worries up here. I'm open to hearing about them. But when the time of the visit comes, they are asked to keep that umbrella up so that heavy adult stuff does not rain down on these children and impair the precious few hours they have with each other. And the goal of every visit is for the child's need to be met. And what's a child's first need? Is to be seen and enjoyed and to play. So we do all kinds of things to play. And that's the whole point of tonight, is when we have so much fear, and we have plenty of reason to be afraid, anxious, nervous, depressed people, we do. There's evidence out there, there's reason. But we also have clear evidence that we need play. Play disarms fear. If you want to know how to disarm fear in another human being, offer a playful, connected self. Smile, have some joy, be silly, especially with kids. You can't really be too silly with a kid. It's a really precious thing when you get a family to play together when they're heartbroken. It's absolutely necessary. It's medicine to their soul. So when I see these parents who actually struggle to play, they're so heavy-hearted, they're so full of hard stuff, they don't know how to play. And all I had to do was model or tell them, or invite them to go where their child was on the floor, get down on their child's level. And if the little boy or girl is pushing around a car on the carpet, go do that. If they're coloring, go do what they're doing. If they're building with blocks, do what they're doing. Don't tell them how to do it. Get alongside and be amazed at what they're building. And I have seen parents who were really inept at playing because they didn't have the experience, they didn't have resources, art, Play-Doh, they didn't have the stuff at home. I've seen them light up with joy when their child is really responsive to that, because being next to someone and doing what they're doing activates the place in the brain for connection. So a child wants to be with their parent. It reduces the fear in the room. The parent feels like they're meeting the child's need, and so on. It goes from there, and it's been really impactful for me to see that happen in the hardest of situations. So I can tell anybody in this audience tonight that by introducing some fun on purpose, being a little bit silly, being willing to laugh even in hard times is so reparative, it actually heals your brain. So who wouldn't want to do that, right? So my families, as I said, have taught me so much. And one thing they taught me about is what it means to have chronic experiences of fear. To be in the fear state all day long, to not have that relieved, to have your body your engine for your body on high. It's just running and it's getting burned out because their brain is in survival mode. And what that looks like over time is a lot of hard behaviors come from that. Yeah. It's exhausting. It makes people unwell physically and emotionally. And then sometimes the behaviors are really different and hard and challenging because of that fear state. Same with the birth parents, same with the children, and honestly, same with foster and adoptive parents. You can get just as scared in your home when you're caring for kids that are scared and not know what to do about it. So it's really important to understand the fear state. And I ask parents when I'm training them to consider a time when they were really overwhelmed. You might think of it now, a time when you were so overwhelmed, and think of the scenario. What was it? Were you doing your taxes or not doing your taxes? Were you preparing something for work? Were you homeschooling throughout the entire pandemic? When did you feel so overwhelmed, and where did you feel it in your body? We try to teach kids to be aware of their bodies. They're often clueless about what's happening. So if you're overwhelmed, do you get a headache? Do you feel choked up? Is it hard to breathe? Do you feel the stress in your shoulders, in your stomach, in your fists? Are you ready to run? Are you ready to fight? You know, what is happening to you? Or are you frozen and numb and you don't know what to do? So once you realize that being overwhelmed is actually a fear state, people, that's like a number 1 or 2 or 3 of our fears as a human is we don't want to be overwhelmed because we feel helpless. We feel out of control. We don't know what to do. And so when we're in that state, that's the closest I can get you to know what it's like to have a child who's come from multiple placements, from multiple traumas, from losing their mother and father temporarily, hopefully. What that's like for them is they live in a chronic state of fear. We have to be really good at bringing them down from that. One of the best things to do is get on the level of the child. Get on your knees, lay on your belly if they're on your belly. Get down and look in their eyes with love and kindness, with a warm expression, and ask them, what do you need, buddy? Right. Or what are you playing? This is so cool. Or when you pass them in the hallway, a teenager that's kind of sullen, give them a little fist bump and say, you're such a cool kid. I just love having you in my home. I love seeing you. That can work in your home too. Just join your kids in play. And you will have dropped your blood pressure actually by getting down on their level. It's known to reduce your blood pressure and reduce your fear. And let yourself have fun. I still remember a gentleman, he had raised some kids, he and his wife, and then his 2 youngest who had very special needs were removed from the home for safety reasons. They had to be taught how to care for these kids. And he came into the visit coaching program, and honestly, those 2 had my heart. They suffered from homelessness, and they were the first to help at a church with the homeless. That's how they served. And yet they didn't have their kids. So I basically modeled for him how to get down on the floor and play. And after their kids were returned, and it was a wonderful reunion, the one thing I asked him about was, what did you learn from visit coaching, if anything? And he said, Robin, I learned that it's okay to be silly with my kids and get down on the floor and play with them. He said, I didn't know that. In my culture, in my home, it was looked down on for a man. And he said, now I know how powerful it is. So that's another reminder. Anybody can do that. It's a simple need of humans to play. Even animals play, right? We learn how to do life through play. So I wanted to think for a minute of if we can help fearful parents feel safer, we know we can help the kids feel safer. Yes. We have a responsibility to do that. I've been working with a 12-year-old boy that I just love for 1 year. It all started with Zoom. I remember him being very sarcastic. He'd say, you're a bully. He called everyone a bully when they got on the line. And he went from being like not really fully present to becoming more present. And one day he said to me, Miss Robin, have you seen my papers? Have you seen my papers? Because if you've seen my papers, you know who I am and what I've been through. And I think I reframed my work with him in that moment to say, what this boy needs to know is he's not what his papers say. And I've read his papers. I don't always get to read. In fact, I don't choose to sometimes because I don't want to see someone from their rap list. But he was 12 years old, and he already had been in the hospital a couple times. He had been taken out of schools. He had multiple placements. He suffered so much that he had no control over. And now, fast forward to this year, he was just named the Student of the Month. He proudly showed off the sign that they put in the yard. I love that schools do that in Allentown. They celebrate that child, give him gifts, candy, and they gave him a certificate that they laminated, and he held it up for me. I got to be with him in person because I'm all vaccinated now. I love being with kids. It's the best place to be. And he held it up, and I said, what is it that you had to do to become Student of the Month? And he said, apparently I am very reflective. And I said, what does that mean? He said, it means I notice when someone else needs help and I help them. I repair my mistakes and I'm curious about learning. That's what I want to be. And I think that's what we all want to be. We want to have an eye to help someone else. We want to know that we can repair our mistakes. And we want to be curious. We want to keep learning no matter what. So 3 cheers for that young man. He has come so far. And he's building bonds with his biological parents, which is so important. He treasures those times, but he's also feeling super safe in the foster home, thanks to them getting trained with TBRI, getting equipped. So very exciting. But I want to ask anyone in the audience, I'll even ask you, what's it like carrying your papers? Do you carry your papers with you in the back of your mind, in your heart, in your gut? Even if nobody's ever read your papers, you know what they are. It could be a list of diagnoses. It could be a list of failed relationships. It could be a broken heart, and you carry that with you. That is not your identity. Don't let your papers or imaginary papers be your identity. It is not. You were, this is the good news, we were all created with great worth from a loving God who created us and designed us like himself. He wants to know you, wants to be with you, and he sees you. He is a God who sees. He is a God who hears your needs even before we ask, but he wants to know them. So he invites us into that relationship. And he is a God who places high value on you. He esteems you. He loves you. So knowing that, we can let our papers fly to the wind. He's already stamped an approval, and that he wants us to come to him for everything, for every need. He already is ready to answer our needs. So I feel really free just knowing that and even being able to say that to you. If you doubt that, that's okay. If you wrestle with that, that's okay too. But if you know it deep in your heart or you have an inkling it's true, go with it. Be curious to find out. I mean, the birth parents I work with, I would say at least 2/3 of them over these years, 8 years, have been people who have sought God, who've had tremendous pain in their life, loneliness, serious abuse, and they trust God. I wonder, how is that even possible? But I've learned with them, their tenacity in praying, in loving, in being willing to trust, blows me away. So I know that he is part of this healing process, and it is painful to be where you're at. Lonely, isolated, hurting, depressed, anxious, all of that is so painful. So remember that you are not your papers. And if you can burn them up or immensely let them go, give them away to someone, that's not who you are. Sometimes the shame that we have, it gets handed on generation to generation sometimes. If someone doesn't deal with their pain, they put it on you, and that sticks to us. And a lot of what I'm passionate about doing is I want to help people see what the lie is that they're believing. It's not the truth. And some of those lies are, I'm bad, I'm not worthy, I'm invisible, something's wrong with me, I'm crazy, I don't belong. That is just a lie. You are worthy, you are lovable, you are needed in this world. So we have to decide that we need to go on a journey to let go of those lies that just inadvertently got passed on from a lot of places of pain. And I believe that healing for any of us includes, first and foremost, being really fiercely honest about what's happened to you. Being honest about how much it hurt. to not have your needs met, how disappointing some people in some relationships are, how it hurt. Because only then can you truly let go when you're ready with some compassion, realizing somebody else put their stuff on you and you didn't deserve that, you didn't need it. And now you carry it around, and I actually offer groups for adults, for men or women, making sense of your worth. It was created by Cindy Lee, all based on TBRI principles and understanding that we can't really lead a child to a place of healing unless we know the way. That's what Dr. Karen Purvis said, and it's so true. So if you want to help a child who's hurting, if you want to help a child heal in your own home, you have to do the work to make sense of your own history. What went wrong, what hurt, what needs weren't met, so that you can start to heal. And really, the other part of healing is finding a safe person, a safe place. Hopefully at the Sanctuary of Hope, we'll be that way with really wonderful counselors and people who are trained to serve you. But it might take time to find a safe person. So what I want to ask you to do is to think, and again, Sabrina, you can think about this. Before the age of 13, was there an adult that when you were with them, you felt so safe? You felt like you could be yourself. They weren't critical, judgmental. They didn't need you to meet their needs. They just wanted to be with you. Think about that, anyone who's listening. Who comes to your mind? It might be a parent. It might not be a relative. It might be a grandparent. A lot of people do say grandmothers or grandfathers, which is cool. I think my kids would all be saying that. And it might be a neighbor. But I want you to think about, how did you feel when you were with them? Did you feel happy to be yourself? Did you feel comfortable in your own skin? Did you feel really safe deep down? That's what you need now, too. Do you have one person, at least one person, that gives you that feeling, that sees you, isn't quick to judge you? They might help you and support you if you're struggling with something. They might correct you if needed, but they are really in it for you. They just want to be with you. They want to do things with you and enjoy you and laugh with you and play. If you have that safe person, you're blessed. If you have many safe people, you're doubly blessed. If you don't, you are worthy of finding a safe person. And I would encourage you to look hard, ask hard, search hard until you find one. Create a family of safe people if you can, because that is really, really important to your well-being. We can't heal when we don't feel safe, when we're afraid. The other question is, are you a safe person for others? When people are with you, are you fully present, or is your mind somewhere else? Are you on your phone? When someone's with you, especially a child, do you see them for their preciousness, for their beauty, for their just who they are, not what they can do for you or what they excel at? Do you see them? Do you hear them? Do you care about their ideas, their stories, their pain? Do you hear them? Do you give them a voice and allow them to speak what they need to say? And finally, do you value them? Do you respect them? Do you show respect in the way you speak to them? That's what safe people do. They meet others' needs, but they can also then, with an adult, they can actually receive help. They can be in community. They create safe communities. And I'm counting on that for Sanctuary of Hope, that when people dial into this kind of program or they come here, when you see the new space, I know by May it's going to be a beautiful refuge. It's so beautifully, the colors, the space is going to be a comfort for you. And that's what we're looking for. We need a safe person in our life because we need comfort. When we're really dysregulated and don't know how to calm ourselves by ourselves, which is a skill we got to teach kids and ourselves, we need someone to help comfort us, to reassure us, to say it's going to be okay. It's ugly right now, but we are with you. So we do need that.
And Robin, may I just
Yes,
interject?
please.
I'm just thinking about you saying being honest with yourself.
Yes.
And I think lots of times because we have to exemplify that strength,
Yes.
you know, we have to put that mask on so that we can be strong for our family, for our children. We're not honest with ourselves that, okay, I need help. There are areas that I'm weak at. So, I mean, I just think that's just really one of the key components to being able to begin that healing process. Being honest and saying, this is what's written on my umbrella. And I like that
Yes,
concept.
I like that too.
Like, really.
Use it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it helps you stay in the moment too. There are always going to be adult problems over
Yes.
us, but let's not do it when we're with our kids. Let's turn off the news. Let's focus on playing what they want to play. You know that if you spend 2 minutes alone with a child and let them talk to you uninterrupted, not checking your phone, they come away feeling like, I'm an interesting kid, I'm a cool kid, I'm funny.
Right, right.
If you don't listen for 2 minutes and you're dismissive and you check your phone, of course we're going to do that occasionally, but I mean in a 2-minute period, a person's going to come away, not just a child, but a person thinking, I'm not very interesting. I can't hold their attention. Something's wrong with me.
Right.
We don't want to do that. We want to be safe people who are able to tune in to the person in front of us. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
We don't have to fake it.
Right. Because we as adults
Yes.
want to feel heard.
Yes.
So can you imagine, and sometimes I think children are disregarded
Yes.
because they're young, but we just have to, again, look at ourselves. If I'm having a conversation with someone and I feel like I'm not being heard,
Yeah.
I'm going to feel a type of way about it. So
Definitely.
it's just, I'm just grabbing all of those little tools and nuggets that you're giving.
It
because
speaks
it's,
to our self-worth, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not worthy to be heard right
yeah,
now.
Yes.
I'm not seen. They'd rather not see me. And when I'm teaching foster parents, a lot of them will say they struggle with this idea of giving a child voice and choices and helping them, not punishing them, just correcting them and teaching them by example and showing them the right way. Because they said, nobody did that for me. I was supposed to be not seen, not heard.
Right.
Neither of those things. But we were designed by God to have, at the best of circumstances, of course it's not everyone's circumstance, for a loving, nurturing adult to come to our rescue when we're crying. That's our voice.
Right.
If we respond consistently and nurturingly to a baby every time and with warmth, not perfect parenting, but warm, responsive parenting. I see you, even though you need to be changed and you stink, I love you and I'm with you. You're precious. That child will grow up, that's what it's designed to do, feeling trust. Like I can trust that I have needs and they will be met by a safe person.
Yes.
That's the lesson of the first year of life. And if we didn't learn that in the first year of life, we have to learn it now.
Yes.
We're not going to blame our parents for not being able to do that. There's multiple reasons why they may not have been able to respond like that. But we can change the way we do things by seeing a child, hearing them, inviting them into your world to know them. So great point. We don't want to be masking, like you said. Kids can see through a mask. I remember even saying to my mom sometimes, Mom, you're angry, aren't you? And she said, no, I'm not angry. She wasn't good with handling her feelings.
Right.
Therefore, she taught me to see other people's feelings out of my own. But what's so cool is when you know this stuff, you can start repairing relationships. I think my kids are watching right now, and I think they know that I have worked hard to repair. Because I was one of those people that I see you and I hear you, and I think you're amazing. But when you're in pain, could you just like stand back? Because I'm not good at this.
Right.
This hurts too much. Could you hurry up and get better?
Yeah.
And I'd like to fix that for you real fast. That's not healthy. I need to learn to sit with that pain longer. And I am sorry, and I've told them I'm sorry that I rushed them. But I was going to bring up 2 of my kids because I have 3 amazing kids. Our family happens to have struggles with mental health. Is that a surprise? I think everyone on this tonight understands what I'm talking about. And when my son was 4, Britton, he was visiting a church with us. His father was going to get hired to do some work there. And we went to the service. And when the pastor stood up before he spoke, he said, is there anyone in the congregation that has a word or wants to come up and speak to all of us? And his hand goes shooting up.
Oh my
My husband and I are looking at each other. We're new to this church.
Oh my God.
Where is he going? He's 4. He walked up to the front. He got help to get up high enough. He was given the mic, and he said nothing. He wasn't saying anything.
Right.
And we're on pins and needles. And then he said one word, love.
Wow.
And everyone took a deep breath. And the pastor said, I think we're done here. I think we can go home. Sermon preached. And that boy has such a tender heart of love. To this day, he's now 25, almost 26. And he has struggled with mental health. He's had depression, very heavy at times. He's had anxiety, and he's been isolated. But he has recently, out of love and also self-preservation, he's created a community online. He uses really silly, humorous, short little videos to capture someone's attention, and then he complains about some things, but he talks honestly about mental health, and he gives advice that he'd give to himself.
That's wonderful.
It's beautiful.
Oh
And
my God.
in fact, I think he gave this link to some of his friends. And if you're there tonight out there from Britain's group, I just want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And also for the way you have inspired my son and encouraged him. They gather through live chats and share ideas. They're honest. Many people have gathered because they have felt like they don't belong. And you do belong. And anyway, I'm very proud of him for the courage it takes
Yes,
to do
thank
that. Put
you.
yourself out there like that.
Yes.
So that's something I encourage. In his playfulness has reduced his own fear
Yes.
and theirs.
Wow, that is wonderful.
And one thing he said is, people said, "Are you always happy?" So he's been doing a few more videos saying, "No, I'm not always happy. I'm like this. I'm having a hard day." But he did say once, try to enjoy the spectrum of human emotions. We're not made to be happy every day. And I've thought a lot about that. I think I was one of those people that tried to be happy all the time.
right.
And kids can see through it, and partners can see it through it. Why was I thinking I had to mask it? So I totally relate to what you said. So knowing that really we can be honest about our array of emotions. Life does not go like this.
No. it
As firstborn,
absolutely
I wanted
doesn't.
it to go like that, everything perfect. But it undulates. Just like a baby gets upset and someone comes and lovingly calms them, we get excited and then we have a drop. We get nervous and then we calm down. We get afraid and somehow we finally get relief. But what we've been living through, we have not got much relief. So a time like this to take time for yourself, caring for a friend, is really important because you need that little break, that little rest. I wanted to say that there is a beautiful song written by Sarah Groves. She's one of my favorite poets, singer-songwriters, and it's called Enough. And it talks about that idea that it's not just happiness. There is a long stretch of sorrow, and there are patches of joy. And I'd like to read this to you all. Late nights, long hours, questions are drawn like a thin red line. No comfort left over, no safe harbor in sight. Really, we don't need much, just strength to believe there's honey in the rock. There's more than we see. In these patches of joy, these stretches of sorrow, there's enough for today, enough for tomorrow. Upstairs, a child is sleeping. What a light in our strain and stress. We pray without speaking. Lord, help us wait in kindness. We don't need much, just strength to believe there's honey in the rock. There's more than we see in these patches of joy, these stretches of sorrow. There's enough for today and enough for tomorrow. Isn't that beautiful? Our family knows a lot about stretches of sorrow. I think every family represented here does. But we had one stretch of sorrow that lasted for 10 months that seemed unbearable. My oldest daughter, in March, seemed to be having symptoms of, not of COVID, but of the fear of COVID. And she began to have a lot of fear. She ended up having chronic insomnia, never sleeping for weeks at a time. It seems impossible humanly, but it's not. And because of that, her body went into all kinds of other problems, neurological symptoms, psychiatric symptoms. We were caring for her around the clock. It was scary, it was frightening, it was exhausting, it was confusing. We thought she'd get better, and then she wouldn't. Doctors were befuddled. We had never experienced something like that before, and I know there's people like that out there that struggle, whether it's an addiction, a loved one that you have that seems to be getting well and then has a relapse, or someone who is just chronically ill and they never are well. It's so painful. And not to get answers and to have to navigate the medical system alone is very scary. And I remember just laying in bed. She had to move in with us. Her husband was very brave, but he had to do life on his own for a while because it was too much for him. And I was laying in bed at night, not sleeping, my hands raised up to heaven. And I trust God. I have since I was little. But I was saying, do you see me? Do you see her? Do you hear me? Can you hear her crying? Do you care about us? And I saw this picture of Jesus at a friend. It's a beautiful picture, it's from Germany. It shows Jesus with a lot of colorful light coming out of his hands. And I'd stare at that in the dim light, and I'd beg Jesus to be more than just a flat picture. And I never had that experience before. I knew his kindness. I knew his compassion. And if anyone questions God's love for you and has felt he has a punishing gaze or he has a punishing mindset towards you, that's not true. And we know that through Jesus. He sees you with love in his eyes. He comes to you. He enters into your pain. He entered into our pain. He heard my daughter's cries to him. And it was a slow go, but she's healed now.
Good.
He repaired everything she asked him to repair. And I was so proud of her. She was so brave, so enduring of so much suffering. I'm proud of my husband and actually of us, and then our friends who couldn't really enter in because we were so isolated with pandemic. But their flowers that sent, vegetables and meals on the porch, texts, cards, showers of cards, and the endless prayers saw us through. And to me, I understood what rock with honey in it is. It's a biblical term. It means that God can provide in the desert or in the darkest hearted places where there's only hard places. He sends the bees there. The bees create the honey, and we're there. We can feed on that. And it's a metaphor for delight, actually. And I think he knows. We are weary. We are hurting. We are afraid. We're sad. We're lonely. But he has hidden honey in the rock in your problems. We know that from our own experience, and we give him all our thanks that he brought healing to us, but he doesn't always show his healing in that way. So I feel for anyone who feels unhealed or in that process, but there is honey in that rock. So don't give up.
I love that concept.
So here's the thing. We're probably past our time, way past our time. And if you have to leave, you have to leave. But Jason said we can keep talking. So what can we do? What can we do? How can we be in this world to make a difference, to reduce fear and to increase joy? I just want to end on thinking of this. If your life is hard, ugly, chaotic, sorrowful, I was told once by a trauma expert that you take those words that describe your hardness of where you are, and then you find an opposite word. If it's hard, find something easy to do that's a pleasure. If it's chaotic, find one space in your area to organize where you can feel peace. Make a little peace corner for yourself. If it's ugly, purposely go find beauty. Put yourself in the way of beauty, it's been said. Find some beauty in nature. Take a walk. Take your children on an adventure. Start looking for beauty in the person. It's easy to find beauty in you, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Find beauty in your child, in your partner, in your friend. Start to see differently. Start to look for things. Start to sow patches of joy. Pull that sorrow together with a patch of joy. It might look a little funny, messy, doesn't fit, but we need it. We absolutely can only survive that way. And I would also encourage you to play with your whole heart. Sometime in our hard stuff, our family is known for laughing. We laugh. We have funny kids, and I have a funny husband. But we laugh, and we enjoy life, and we celebrate. We cry hard. We get isolated. We get lonely. But I understand that fear is disarmed by playfulness, playful attitude, joyful face. So if that's what it takes, do that with your kids, and see if you don't feel more connected, more calm. Show them how you calm yourself when you're upset. Teach them about what works for you. Ask them what works for them. Do they like a certain scent? Do they need to push hard on the wall to make it go push down to regulate their body? Do they need a fast run around the house? whatever they need, say, we'll do this together. We can calm ourselves together. We can have fun together. We can be a family together. So I want to thank you all for listening and for this opportunity to sit with you, Sabrina. You have joy lighting up your face. And to Jason, who's such a good sport in the dark out there.
Yes.
And every single one of you,
Yes.
I want to say, do you know that you are precious? If you weren't told that as a little person, I'm sorry. But you are worthy to be seen, to be heard, to be held in high esteem just for being you, just for being alive. And I want you to believe that, dare to believe that, and start practicing and live that way. And in the words of a young preacher that I know, love.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for being here. If you're not gone yet.
Yes. And guess what? If they're gone, they can replay it later on at another time. I'm
Thank you, Sabrina.
so happy that God connected us. From the first time I met Robin over the phone, we just connected, our spirits meshed, and I had the most confidence that you would bring today what you did. And it's just so many different, oh my gosh, it's so many different tools. Okay, it's a lot of stuff we're gonna have to, like, I'm gonna have links for everyone. You know, just so
Questions
you can go on
could be asked, and we could try to get back to that
Yes,
another time.
and we'll get back to you on any questions you may have. You can post it in the Sanctuary of Hope. You can inbox through the Sanctuary of Hope group. And just what Robin provided tonight, you know, her and I are going to talk a little more offline later on down the line, is what I'm hoping I can bring people like her, actually her,
Like me.
into the Sanctuary of Hope to be a facilitator, to provide that safe place. Because one of the things that we are promoting, the hashtag No Shame Zone.
Yes.
And it's
yes.
okay to not be okay.
I love that.
And you presented so much tonight to foster families, to birth families, to couples, to teenagers. You touched on every area that we can just pull out on and just use. Honey in the rock. And I am going to end with that. And I thank everyone for joining us. And we will see you next Monday, May 10th, for our next speaker. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a good night,
Thank you.
everyone. And thank
Good
you,
night.
Robin.
Thank you.